In 1896, the shortest war in recorded history took place between Britain and the Sultanate of Zanzibar, an island nation off the coast of East Africa. When the pro-British Sultan died suddenly, his cousin seized the palace and declared himself the new ruler without British approval, a direct violation of a treaty requiring British consent for any succession. Britain issued an ultimatum, giving the new Sultan until 9 o'clock the following morning to step down. When the deadline passed with no response, British warships stationed in the harbour opened fire on the palace. The bombardment began at 9:02 a.m. By 9:40 a.m., the palace was in ruins. The Sultan had fled out a back window to seek asylum at a nearby consulate, and his forces had surrendered. The entire war, from the first shot to the surrender, lasted approximately 38 minutes, making it the shortest recorded war in human history, and the newly declared Sultan's reign, the shortest reign of any monarch ever recorded, lasting less time than most people spend eating breakfast. Wars throughout history haven't only been fought over land, religion, or power. Some of the pettiest and strangely most destructive conflicts began over almost nothing at all. In 1325, two rival Italian city-states, Bologna and Modena, went to war after soldiers from Modena stole a wooden bucket from a well in Bologna. What began as a minor act of humiliation escalated into a full military campaign, culminating in the Battle of Zappolino, where an estimated 2,000 people died fighting over territorial pride sparked by, quite literally, a bucket. The city of Modena reportedly still displays the original bucket in a bell tower to this day, treating the absurd origin of the conflict as a point of local legend rather than embarrassment. Territorial disputes throughout history have often hinged on details so small they seem almost fictional. In 1859, tensions between American and British settlers on San Juan Island, located in disputed waters between the United States and British Canada, escalated into what's now remembered as the Pig War, after an American farmer shot and killed a pig belonging to a British settler that had wandered onto his property and was eating his potatoes. The incident triggered a standoff between American and British military forces, both sides deploying troops and warships to the tiny island, coming dangerously close to full-scale war between two major world powers. Remarkably, the pig was the only casualty of the entire conflict. Cooler diplomatic heads eventually prevailed, and the dispute was resolved peacefully years later through international arbitration. But for a tense standoff lasting over a decade, an entire international border dispute rested on the death of a single hungry pig. Some of history's strangest moments occurred not despite wartime brutality, but in brief, unexpected pockets of shared humanity within it. During World War I, on Christmas Eve of 1914, soldiers along the Western Front, entrenched in brutal, freezing conditions after months of horrific casualties, began doing something almost nobody anticipated. In numerous locations along the front, German and British troops independently began singing Christmas carols across the narrow strip of no man's land separating their trenches. By Christmas morning, in several sections of the front, soldiers from opposing armies climbed out of their trenches, met in the middle, exchanged small gifts of cigarettes, buttons and food, and in some documented cases organized impromptu games of football using empty ration tins or improvised balls. This unofficial truce, remembered as the Christmas truce, was never ordered by any commanding officer, and in fact, military leadership on both sides moved quickly afterward to prevent it from happening again, rotating troops and issuing strict orders against fraternization, fearing that soldiers who saw their enemy as fellow human beings would become less willing to kill them. For one single day, in the middle of one of history's most devastating wars, ordinary soldiers briefly chose peace entirely on their own, without permission, before being forced back into a war neither side had started. Not every strange historical event involved conflict between nations. Sometimes the strangest events involved a government at war with an enemy that couldn't possibly surrender. In 1932, in Western Australia, farmers were struggling against a massive population of emus, large flightless birds, destroying crops during a severe agricultural downturn. The Australian government, in response, deployed soldiers armed with machine guns to cull the emu population in what was officially termed a military operation. The results were humiliating. The birds proved far more difficult to target than expected, capable of scattering unpredictably and absorbing gunfire without dying quickly. And after a prolonged and largely unsuccessful campaign, the operation was quietly called off, with the commanding officer later noting, in official reports, that if his forces had faced a similarly resilient human army, it would be able to conquer the world. The so-called Great Emu War remains one of the only documented instances of a modern government's military force effectively losing a war against birds. Beyond wars themselves, history holds moments of accidental disaster nearly impossible to imagine occurring in the real world. In January of 1919 in Boston, Massachusetts, a massive storage tank containing over 2 million gallons of molasses ruptured without warning, sending a wave of thick, syrupy liquid estimated at speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, surging through the streets of the North End neighborhood. The wave was powerful enough to destroy buildings, sweep horses and wagons from the street, and tragically killed 21 people, with many more injured, some of them trapped and suffocated by the thick, hardening substance before rescuers could reach them. Cleanup took months, and residents reported that the smell of molasses lingered in the neighborhood's streets, buildings and harbor waters for decades afterward. An almost unbelievable disaster, caused not by war or violence, but by a structural failure in a tank of sweetener. Even the deaths of powerful historical figures have occasionally taken turns so bizarre they defy easy explanation. In the year 897, nearly a century after his death, Pope Formosus was subjected to what's now remembered as the Cadaver Synod, when his decomposing corpse was exhumed by order of his successor, dressed in full papal vestments, propped upright on a throne, and formally placed on trial for alleged crimes committed during his papacy. A young deacon was assigned to answer questions on the corpse's behalf during the proceedings. The dead pope was found guilty, his papal acts were declared void, and his body was mutilated and thrown into the Tiber River, though it was later recovered and reburied, in an episode so strange that later church leadership reversed the verdict entirely and formally banned any future trials of the deceased. What connects stories like these, across centuries and continents, wars fought over buckets and pigs, brief truces sung into existence by exhausted soldiers, a government's failed war against birds, a wave of molasses, and a corpse placed on trial, is a simple, often overlooked truth. History is not only shaped by the grand, deliberate decisions of powerful people. It is equally shaped by pettiness, accident, absurdity, and the unpredictable, sometimes irrational behavior of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. The record of the past holds far more of these strange, half-forgotten moments than most people ever learn about, hidden in the footnotes of textbooks waiting to be rediscovered. If stories like these, the wars, disasters, and moments of history too strange to be fiction, are exactly what you come here for, subscribe to The Grave Details, because history is far stranger and far larger than anyone could ever fully imagine. And there are countless more stories like these still waiting to be told.